Hello dear friends, how are you? I hope you are all good today. In today's video, we are going to talk about the history of space travel timeline. To travel into the unknown of space is a dream for so many children and adults alike, although one that very few will ever reach. Throughout time, so many countries and now private companies across the world have tried to create a method of getting in amongst the stars. It's even United Countries that previously had such strong conflict. Here we are going to go through a timeline of the significant moments in the history of space travel, starting way back in the 1940s. 1942. In 1942, the German V-2 rocket designed by Werner von Braun was the first to reach 100 kilometers from the Earth's surface, also known as the boundary of space. Brown later worked with NASA on the rockets that went to the moon. 1947. In 1947, the first animals went into space. Fruit flies were used to study the effects of space travel on animals, as they are very similar to humans. The flies traveled with a supply of corn to eat on the flight. 1949. Albert II was the first monkey in space. Albert II was a rhesus monkey and boldly went where no primate had been before on June 14, 1949, in a specially adapted US V-2 rocket that flew 83 miles from Earth. 1957. On October 4, 1957, Russia launched the first space satellite, named Sputnik 1. Sputnik 1 was the first satellite in the orbit around the Earth. In November the same year, Lyaka, the Russian dog, became the first animal to orbit the Earth. Lyaka is Russian for barker. She traveled in Sputnik 2 and helped understand whether people could survive in space. 1959. By 1959, both US and Russian scientists were in a race to get a craft to the moon. The Russians won. Space probe Luna 2 crashed landed into the moon at fatal speeds. 10 years later, the first human visited the surface. 1961. On April 12, 1961, Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space. Traveling in Vostok 1, he completed one orbit of the Earth, landing about 2 hours after launch. Gagarin had to eject and use a parachute to land as the craft was designed to crash land. 1962. John Glenn became the first US man to orbit the Earth aboard the Friendship 7. John actually chose this name officially. The craft is called the Mercury Atlas 6 for the mission Mercury and it being the sixth flight to use the faster Atlas rocket. 1963. Valentina Tereshkova, a Russian cosmonaut, became the first woman in space. After her mission, she had a crater on the far side of the moon is named after her. 1965. Who could believe after just sending men to the moon, NASA managed to successfully conduct the first Mars flyby with their Mariner 4 craft. 1966. In 1963, John F. Kennedy promised that by 1970 the US would have put men on the moon. NASA firstly sent a robot spaceship called Surveyor 1 to make sure they could safely land. It reached the moon on May 30, 1966, just after the Russian probe Luna 9. One surveyor landed and took photographs and sent them back to the eagerly awaiting scientists who used them to visualize the terrain and work out a plan to land people on the moon safely. 1969. On July 20, 1969, the famous one small step was taken by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and the first words were spoken, the Eagle has landed. This ionic praise confirmed them as the first men on the moon. The Apollo 11 craft flew them 250,000 miles to the moon and back. 1970. Apollo 13 on April 13, 1970, the second day of its trip to the moon, suffered a wiring fault causing an explosion. Using what was on board, NASA and the astronauts on board made repairs to bring the damaged craft back to Earth. The video is going too lengthy, so we will stop in here and we will make a next second part of this video. So this is it for today and we will see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.